Hello, I'm John Kleiss of TISL Media, and welcome to the year's first TISL Talk, where we take someone from each side of the bill and have them debate. So, I have with me now Senator Benjamin Rosenberg and Senator Gilbert Gilchrist. How are we doing today, guys?
Doing great. Thanks for having us here.
Doing well? No problem. So, we will be debating Bill 199, an act to prevent employment discrimination against offenders and to aid former criminals in finding employment. All right, Senator Gilchrist, we will start with you.
I think there were a multitude of reasons that I had issues with this bill. First and foremost, there's, due to amendments, the phrase that originally allowed employers to discriminate, essentially, if the crime was related to their area was struck. That's a huge problem with crimes such as embezzlement and fraud, which we did touch on and debate pretty extensively. Especially if you're going to work in the financial sector, which is rapidly growing in the state of Tennessee, or issues like petty theft if you're working in retail, or issues such as, any kind of theft really if you're working with any kind of consumer products. So I think that was a major problem with it. I also think that there were some questions about constitutionality because of the way that Tennessee handles its background checks. It essentially runs them through the FBI, which of course the state legislature cannot pass a law that would restrict what the FBI does or does not do. That would be unconstitutional because of the supremacy clause in the United States Constitution, in my opinion. So I think there were, several issues, but I'd like to give Mr. Rosenberg here a chance to rebut me, and we'll see where we go from there.
All right, Senator Rosenberg, your response.
So I understand some of the concerns, but part of my rebuttal is, well, first on financial sectors, it's only expunged if it's $999 or less, so any major fraud or major problems would still be reported. And additionally, I do think unless you're a repeated offender, and I can understand why we'd want maybe to stop repeated offenders from committing from going to these jobs, but if you just commit a crime once, if you made a mistake one time, I'm in full support of saying you deserve another chance, you deserve another shot, because we are America, we are a land of the free, and we believe people can change learn from their mistakes and become different.
Senator Gilchrist, what do you say to that?
Yeah, and Mr. Rosenberg makes some great points there. I do think that people can deserve a second chance. However, I do think it's best that we leave that up to the employers. And really, we're just talking about making information available to them. As for the point about it being a small amount, I have two responses to that. Firstly, that piece of information is only relevant in cases of fraud, not necessarily embezzlement, which is actually, in my mind, a bigger problem. Secondly, I don't think the amount is necessarily relevant. I think it's the action itself which creates the moral problem with what you're doing. I think a theft is a theft, and it's wrong either way. So I don't think, especially with issues like embezzlement and fraud, because then it's not even a matter of like you're stealing necessities to feed your family. It's a matter of you're stealing money, and it's not about what you need. It's about what you want at that point. So, that's in my mind a major problem. And I'd also just like to point out that a lot of employers actually get federally funded tax incentives for hiring former convicts, and that is something that is already done to address this issue. And so employers that choose to take advantage of that wouldn't have that information available to them and could actually be penalized for asking and finding out. So it's actually attacking a currently existing bonus for employers to hire those convicts. There are a lot of issues with this, like I said before, but I'll turn it back over to Senator Rosenberg.
Some excellent points being made on both sides here. We're going to go over to Senator Rosenberg, and then if anybody has any final arguments they'd like to make, we'll do that.
So one of my biggest concerns with the relevant crimes clause is my concern was, petty theft. Petty theft could be a relevant crime if you're working at a convenience store, if you're working at a Walmart. And I would hate to see someone denied employment in there because they committed petty theft several years ago. That was my biggest concern. I do understand the financial sector and the embezzlement, and we can make some specific amendments for that. I would actually be open to that. But my biggest worry was things like petty theft, or even people deciding that a nonviolent drug crime was somehow relevant to their work, and then trying to find that out and deny them employment. I believe one of the best ways to fight people going back into crime is to give them economic opportunity. And I support this bill because it does that, and I was wary of the relevant clause because it might have been abused.
All right, that might about wrap it up. Is there anything else either of you would like to say?
I mean, he raised some great points. I think, both of our arguments kind of stand for themselves at this point, and I'd like to thank you both, John and Ben, for your time here today.
You're getting into my job now.
All right. Well, I appreciate the opportunity here today, guys. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. And go ahead.
One last closing remark. I think I realized both during the debate that we found places where we could agree, we could get together, even though we stand on opposite sides. And I'm sure if we had worked on a bill like this together, we could have created something that we both would have agreed on. And that just shows the power of bipartisanship. And so going forward, it's always important to keep that in mind, to really work together for the best.
And so we end on a positive message. Senator Gilchrist and Senator Rosenberg coming together somewhat. I'm John Kleiss, and this is TISL Media.